Tony Sayegh joining us. Great to have him. Been on our show many times. He's an FOJ friend of John. Tony is the new senior advisor for strategy to President Trump. He's at the White House, and he has been put in charge of managing the messaging coming out of the White House on impeachment. He's been a very long-term guest on our show. He's also been on Steve Bannon's War Room at the historic Breitbart Embassy, where we do our show. And he's with us now. Tony Sayegh, great to have you, man.
John, great to be back on with you. Thanks for having me.
All right, now, you served as the spokesperson for the Treasury Secretary. We saw him at the Doha Forum just a few days ago, laying out the president's magnificent economic agenda, the tremendous results he had. I can tell you that being at that forum and with the secretary there, Tony, your former boss, the U.S. economy right now is the envy of the world.
Well, look, the secretary was part of the president's campaign, where he and Larry Kudlow, along with the president, came up with an economic strategy to make more Americans part of our economy by growing it, taking them off the sidelines. It was based on three important policy ideas. One was tax reform, one was regulatory relief, and the third part of this was renegotiating our trade agreements, which had been obviously working against our own interests for decades. So we had the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act 2 years ago to almost the day. This is what's created the best job market in over half a century, wage growth for the first time in over a decade, and the paychecks of some of our lowest income workers are the ones going up the most as a percentage. You have businesses reinvesting into the United States economy, creating more jobs, and then you have the regulatory relief that's also created this environment as well. And in the last 2 weeks, what have we seen? We've seen great job numbers continue. We've seen a trade deal with our two biggest trading partners, Mexico and Canada, renegotiated after 30 years of the last time it happened. And then you had also a first phase with China, which is now going to expand our export market for our products, particularly agricultural products, into China for the first time in a long time. Mm-hmm. And this is all being done while there's been this sham impeachment process that has completely trivialized and legitimized the monumental power given to Congress of impeachment. But meanwhile, the president's kept his eye on the prize and is working hard for the American people.
You know, it's amazing, Tony. You go overseas like I did at the forum in the Middle East. We were there for 5 or 6 days. Went early, got a chance to talk to a lot of people. Do you know that diplomats that I've talked to around the world who were at that forum think this whole thing is a complete joke? I mean, they're making fun of us like we're a third world banana republic with this going on. I don't think I talked to a diplomat or serious member of the foreign media that thought that this impeachment against the president was anything but a sideshow.
Well, let's put it in context, John. You are going to have the House of Representatives likely voting tomorrow on the weakest and least supported articles of impeachment in the history of the impeachment process. It's been based on nothing but personal animus toward the president and his voters, and a now 2.5-year, almost 3-year-long attempt to undermine the president and delegitimize the 2016 election. And the worst part is now interfere in the 2020 election, because I think the Democrats have politically concluded that they can't beat the president on his record, as we just discussed, strongest economy, we're strengthening our military. We just passed the NDAA, and the Space Force is part of that. We've decimated ISIS. The president's kept his promises about securing America and growing our prosperity. They can't beat him on that. They can't beat his connection to the real hardworking men and women in America who came out in droves to support him in defiance of the predictions of all the political establishment and media establishment. So they think by doing this, they're somehow going to create an issue that they could run against them on in 2020, but they're sadly mistaken. The American people, as evidenced in popular opinion polls, clearly see this impeachment as a hoax, something that doesn't impact them and not something they support.
Tony, let me ask you this. I know it hasn't happened yet, but looking at the number of swing vote Democrats that won in Trump districts in 2016, won their first term in 2018 that have come out now saying they're voting for both articles of impeachment. There's no doubt that the impeachment vote is going to pass the House and go to the Senate. There's two schools of thought. Lindsey Graham on Sunday said that he favors a quick trial, no witnesses, a vote for acquittal, and be done with it. Other people in the administration, including the president, have said he prefers a very long trial, that he wants exoneration, call witnesses, go through the whole thing, and expose the ruse for what it is. What is the preference of the administration, and how do you think it's going to play out? Tony said.
Well, look, you know that the facts have not proven anything impeachable. The president knows he's done nothing wrong. There's obviously an interest in making sure the truth gets out, because we know that will lead to the American people fully understanding what we said all along, which is the president's done nothing wrong. That being said, the president's also been equally clear, John, that he's going to leave it to the Senate to come up with a fair process. We're open and ready. We're ready to fight. We know that we have the right case. We know that we have the truth on our side, and we're going to have to see what the Senate ultimately decides.
America's Mayor Rudy Giuliani coming out today with an interview in the New Yorker talking about what decisions were made to replace Ambassador Yanukovych in the Ukraine, coming out the night prior to the vote for impeachment. To me, this is irrelevant because all of these ambassadors serve at the pleasure of the commander-in-chief, of the president. So I don't think it matters whether they thought she was effective or not. If the president didn't want her to serve there, there's no argument. So I'm just questioning is why the interview, why now, and how does this tie into anything?
Well, look, those are questions you're going to ask Mayor Giuliani. I think, as you point out, it's the president who decides who represents our country overseas and who represents the foreign policy that he gets to create. It's not a bureaucrat. It's not an outside advisor. And obviously the president is the one who makes these decisions.
All right. Well, let's see. Let's see what happens. Either way, look, Tony, the president has done nothing wrong. And I know you guys at the White House can't comment on politics, but you look at the USA shock poll that came out today, and this is really taking a toll on the Dems. I mean, the scam is obvious. People in this poll was not taken in swing states, Tony. This poll was taken across the country, which means you've got New York, California, etc., Washington, Oregon in this poll, and Trump now beating every Dem, some by double digits, 9, 10, 13. When are the Democrats going to just wake up and realize that what they've done here, the people don't want it?
Well, yeah, they're tearing the country apart, and they're paying the price for it, as these polls show. Most hardworking Americans know that the impeachment process doesn't benefit them, doesn't do anything to improve their lives, and is really the fixation of a small group of hyper-partisan Democrats, along with some of their allies in the establishment elite media, who have been on this fixation of trying to bring down President Donald Trump since his election. And they're going to ultimately, as the polls show, pay the price, because people want Washington to focus on issues that are important to the people, not important to the politicians and political interests.
Well, Tony, last thing I want to mention, and I think this kind of sums it up, Representative Karen Bass from California, in a safe district, by the way, the other day, says, well, if President Trump wins in 2020, we're going to impeach him again. What does that say to you?
That they're abusing their power in Congress and completely trivializing one of the most monumental powers given to them by the founders. And they think that their opinion matters more than the people who vote to elect the President of the United States. And it's this exact reason that they're setting a very dangerous precedent that one day may not work in their favor. So when Democrats treat impeachment as just an extension of political opposition, we have set a very dangerous precedent for the future of this country.
All right, Tony Sayegh, we're out of time. Tony, thanks for being with us. Senior Advisor for Strategy for President Trump. Tony, always good to have you on, man. Thank you for being with us.
Great to be on with you. Thanks, John.